All right, wonderful. So, to get started, we wanted to introduce ourselves first and foremost, and then we are going to want to hear from you guys as well. So, who are we even? What's the Balanced Mama Project? So, I'm Dr. Valerie Rooker-Bessie, and this is Dr. Saya Yates.
Hey.
And we are licensed physical therapists. And so I have a neuro specialty. Dr. Saya has a women's health specialty. We both are pelvic health physical therapists, and we work with individuals who are prenatal or postpartum. And we focus on providing mental, physical, and emotional support during this time. So we are really excited to support you today in this masterclass. Please feel free to ask us any follow-up questions. You can also find us on Instagram at balance.mama.project, and you can go to our website, priority1wellness.net. We'll give you a little bit more information about that later. More importantly, though, please, please, please tell us about yourself. So if you would please put in the chat, or you can shout it out, let us know, are you pregnant? Are you a support person of someone who is pregnant? Where are you located? And what brings you joy these days? So all of those questions, lots of questions, but they're in the chat right now. So please feel free to share with us where you are in your pregnancy journey if you are pregnant. If you're looking to become pregnant, and where you're located. And we all need a little bit of joy in our lives these days. So what is bringing you joy? We'd love to hear from you.
While we're waiting for the chat drops, the summer, or I should say the springtime weather, when it was warmer, was bringing me joy. And when it hits 70 plus again, it brings me more joy.
Yes, we are located in the DC area, the DMV area, by the way, too. All right, Melissa. Okay, come on. First time pregnancy.
Congratulations.
Yes, and welcome. A fellow Southern girly. I'm from Atlanta. I love a good Southern girly. Moving your body and a good appetite.
Oh, yes.
We're big foodies, so you're in good hands.
Also, I'm not going to lie. I feel like pregnancy is the time where you can get away with being like, I really want this. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to eat it.
Absolutely. Summer. Okay, 33 weeks. Go ahead,
Fresh
summer.
baby.
Yay, and you're in the UK. Awesome, awesome. First time baby boy. This is exciting, guys.
That is exciting.
Yes, Krista, pre-pregnant. Love it. And you're in the DMV right around us. Awesome, awesome. And the sun came out. Okay, did it rain? Because, girl, we didn't know.
The sprinklers were on here, so we are unsure if it was the rain or the sprinklers making things look wet outside.
That's hilarious. Well, good to know, good to know. Okay,
awesome. Still deciding it's tickling me. I love it, though. And I love it.
Awesome. Well, let's get into what we are going to be learning today.
So, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to look at day 0, what to expect in that, we'll say, immediate postpartum. So as soon as you have tiny one, we're looking at care team and what to focus on. And then we'll go through weeks 0 to 6, because sometimes it's shrouded in mystery, where it's like, yeah, just don't do anything. And at 6 weeks, you'll get back to your life. Not typically the case, but we'll talk about that as well. So we'll talk about care team planning, rest, and movement in that time period. And then we'll also go through emergency symptoms, what to look out for, how to advocate for yourself, nervous system norms, physical norms, and emotional norms. So what does normal, or like what are some typical and common things that come up? Yay, support person. In-law. Oh, yes, I'm from Germany.
I like it. Awesome. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. A little bit. Fun fact, I learned German. I know.
I forgot that you did.
German from 4th grade to 10th grade, and then I took it again in college. Anyway, fun fact. But welcome.
I appreciate the investment, and I'm glad you're practicing. Okie dokes. So when we talk about day 0, and thanks for the shares, guys. We love to hear the locations. We love to hear what you're up to and how far along you are, or what support personhood looks like. Okay, so let's get into day 0 care team expectations. So when we say day 0, these are the first people you see as soon as you have the baby or are helping you birth tiny one. And so, or tiny ones, if anyone is having twins. And so, linking with therapy services. So, likely listed as physiotherapist when we're talking about some areas, and then physical therapist in other areas. So we just did a podcast. We'll do a podcast blurb later, talking about the role of physical therapy, especially when we talk about if you're birthing in a hospital. Sometimes there are physical therapists, occupational therapist to immediately link with. A lot of times folks will get us confused, and so I say when you think of physical therapy on day 0, we're looking at walking, getting in and out of bed comfortably, especially important when we're talking about if by chance someone ends up delivering via cesarean, or I should say birthing via C-section, getting out of bed, going from sit to stand, and just feeling comfortable and confident. Even with vaginal births, a lot of times the body can feel a little bit weaker. It's usually a marathon, so the body can feel weaker. So talking about how to comfortably and safely move, especially depending on what's going on with the pelvis, is really going to be in the physical therapy wheelhouse. So checking with care team if that's available beforehand is great, or even linking with someone. I know sometimes I'll see mamas, or I'll see many mamas before they birth, and we'll talk about expectations for recovery and things to do in that day 0 phase. When we talk about occupational therapy, a lot of times in the prenatal time period, they can be great for talking about home planning and setup. If someone has a scheduled cesarean, there's a lot, or there can be more that goes into home setup, like elevated stations for tummy time, talking about how to manage the car seat, and whether you birth vaginally or via cesarean. A lot of times OT is still going to be really helpful when we talk about breastfeeding positions for mom. A lot of times lactation consultants are going to be great for getting baby to latch and making sure tiny one knows how to do what they need to do. When it comes to comfort for your own body, we want to start with those strategies really early, like getting into good habits. And so occupational therapy is often, or physical therapy, but occupational therapy is often a crucial team member when it comes to those topics. Even, yes, carrying your car seat. Those are heavy, especially with tiny one in the car seat. So it can be helpful to know early. Lactation. And so day 0, while you are in the birthing center, in the hospital, or even at home, there is the lactation network. They can get you linked up with the lactation consultant pretty early on. Val, did you use them?
Yeah, here in
At
the
least,
States, I did. They had the lactation network on hand in the hospital.
yeah. So for our U.S. girlies in the U.S., overseas, we would have to do a deeper dive, but definitely figuring out what lactation support looks like day 0, because tiny one is going to want to eat. And so just learning what that setup looks like is going to be important. When we talk about OB, so obstetricians or midwife, typically on day 0, so yes, they have helped get tiny one from the womb into the world, and they're also going to be looking out for any type of scaries, any emergencies, making sure the placenta and everything else is out, and then just keeping an eye on you to make sure nothing comes up, and to make sure there's no bleeding. And we'll talk about emergency symptoms later, but just doing that initial care screen in that immediate postpartum. And finally, when we talk about our support team, so a lot of times before we get to day 0, so for the pregnant mamas and for our support persons, this is a really great time to discuss who is playing what roles. Who do you want at the birth with you? Great to know. Who's making the first meal? Do you have support personnel to help cook food before you have tiny one and you can store it in the freezer? On that day of logistics, so filling out paperwork for the infant's name, social security, documents. Who do you want to put in charge for that? Caring for other children, for our folks who have more than one or have other littles at home. Who's going to watch them? And then making sure to have like a hospital/birthing center exit plan if by chance you do not birth in your home setting, and having someone ready to like grab your baby bag and extra supplies if needed. Who's gonna carry these car seats? And so even considering like if you have a doula, if you have family, if you have friends who are close to you, making sure people know their role before the day of takes a lot of stress off versus trying to ask on the day of or after tiny one is out. So who's doing this? Who's doing that? Because there's too many mysteries going on. And so just emphasize who's doing what beforehand, and we're going to get into 0 to 6 weeks. I don't want to do a.
And I think that actually, we want to highlight this too, that we're talking about day zero right now. And in order for you to have this kind of care team in place, it takes a little bit of
Pre-planning.
Pre-planning. So,
Yeah.
it's great that you all are here and thinking about this now, because then you can start
Yes.
to ask the questions. You can ask questions of your birthing center or your hospital, or if
What's
you're going to be
available.
at home planning for someone to come in, ask what's available to you. And then if it's not available there, can you bring someone in? And especially a note about the lactation services is that is someone who you can call on actually before you even birth. So lactation specialists can come in and they can help you express milk beforehand. That way you are prepared post birth, because after you
Yeah,
birth,
that's a
it's
good
been
point.
such a
Time.
process that then you have this baby that now you feel like, okay, I have to nurse, and I guess there's milk in there somewhere. How do they do that? And then the lactation specialist trying to help them latch, and it could be a lot. So
It can be a lot.
practicing ahead of time can be really helpful, especially you learning what your body responds well to, so that in that immediate postpartum period, when your nervous system is doing a lot of jumps and your hormones are doing a lot of jumps, you can then revert back to what you've practiced ahead of time. Same with PT, as Saya was saying, we see individuals before
Yeah.
you get to day zero, and that way to the birth day, that way
Yes.
you are comfortable with, okay, this is how I know I'm going to get out of bed, or this is how I know that I'm going to lift or carry. Same with OT. So this care team, the way that you can get them to be there for day zero is exactly what you're doing right now, by planning ahead of time and thinking through ways that you would like for them to support you. Okay. So,
Oh, I see a
moving
question.
for oh, yes.
When do you recommend going to a lactation specialist while pregnant?
Actually, great question. So, a lactation specialist that we just recently connected with said that around 36 weeks is a good time to begin to learn how to express your milk and even start to get some stores available. I had no idea when I was pregnant with my baby. I did not know that I could see a lactation specialist
Because
beforehand.
nobody says it.
Nobody said
So
it.
then you're bamboozled.
Exactly. And so I saw one after the fact. But that being said, she was saying, yeah, you could learn how to express milk so much so that you can have some in stores, so that you're not stressed like, oh, my baby needs to eat and I didn't necessarily want to use this method or that method, but now I feel forced to do that. So anyway, to answer your question, 36 weeks.
Yes. I was like, it can be more stressful than otherwise expected. Okay, so day 0, when we talk about toileting, and so we're talking about urination, defecation, when we talk about vaginal births, so a lot of times in that immediate postpartum, there might be some swelling, some discomfort, things might feel a little bit differently down there. And so in some cases, when you urinate, you might feel a little bit of, because yes, the area has to expand to let tiny one out. You might feel a little bit of burning, a little bit of, I say a little bit, just we'll say, oh, yes, we'll say a little bit of discomfort. A quick technique, actually, I think it might have been a nurse practitioner who had shown this. If you turn to face the toilet when you go to urinate, it will keep the urine from running back towards your perineal region, towards that tender area in between where
The vaginal opening and the anus.
yeah, and the anus are. And so it'll keep that area from burning as much facing the toilet and urinating, because then it can just go straight down into the toilet versus running down and back and giving you a little bit of a burn. When we think about post-epidural, post-cesarean, sometimes we'll say pooping can be a little bit more, can be delayed, especially when we start introducing pain medication. So they can slow down the bowels a little bit. That's also why we often will mention early mobility. So moving earlier is going to help kind of encourage the bowels to keep moving, get out any extra gas, encourage pooping sooner rather than later. And then we're going to put some extra emphasis on perineal care in that time. So whether there's tearing or whether there's no tearing in the perineal region, we're still going to focus on, instead of just wiping, we want to dab the area.
Yes.
It's tender, especially if any stitches had to be added. We don't want to rub over an area that was already raw, because it can be more painful. We don't want to aggravate already sensitive tissues. Mm-hmm. And Val, I think you were the one to mention this before. When we say take time to make your deli sandwich, the deli sandwich sounds wild, but I'm always like, if you're at a hospital, if you're at a birthing center, take all the resources that you can. Anything you're offered, especially by ways of perineal care, please take it.
So we're talking your tux pads, ice packs, your adult or your disposable undies or diapers,
your peri bottle,
all of those things. They should be provided to you at the birthing center or the hospital. If you're there, if you're home, make sure you're stored up and stocked up with all of those things.
And it's like witch hazel in the tux pads.
Exactly. And that is what you want to make sure you're taking back with you and stocking up on. And when we say deli sandwich, so again, post-birth for me, a nurse had used this analogy, and I don't know if it's helpful for you guys. It was helpful for me, but she was essentially layering on top of the disposable underwear. She was layering the ice pack, and then the tux pads, when we say tux pads, it's TUCKS. And they have witch hazel in them, which is helpful for your tissue healing. And you kind of layer it like almost like the meat on a deli sandwich. So it's like they come in little circles, and you just kind of layer them on top of each other, maybe halfway on top of each other along the length of the ice pack. And so that's layering your sandwich. But take your time. I will never forget, much to my chagrin, much to my surprise, my toileting experience, day 0 and even through 6 weeks, was a bit extended. That's okay. Take your time.
Yes, there is no rush. And what I also saw for my godson's mom, her, for support persons, this was a great idea. Her sister-in-law was like, oh, after I had a little, I wish I had had a cart with all of my supplies on it, where she just had a little cart that will roll around with her. She could roll it into the bathroom, where it's like, you have your tux pads, you have all of your deli sandwich items, except for the ice packs, which will be in the freezer. But it sometimes is nice to have a kit or like a little station where everything's set up that can move with you, where it's not like, let me search for all of these things. Okay, when we talk about day 0 feeding and lactation, ideally, if we have seen them prenatal, great timing. But even in that early postpartum, we want to start off with good habits. So we want to make sure mom is comfy. I'm going to say baby is comfy. The baby is just be chilling. I feel like their bodies are comfortable. But when we talk about setting up good habits, so oftentimes we'll say bring the baby to your breast. Instead of hunching over, trying to meet baby with the nipple. And we also encourage back support, feet support. We have another masterclass on this actually, where it talks about setup, but having back support, having something under your feet, avoiding that forward head and looking down at the baby the whole time. I know the cutie patooties are very cute, but we cannot just stare at them the whole time. If you want to glance down, then we need you to be back up and resting, because a lot of times those early feeds can be longer.
Yeah,
because baby is going to get more efficient as they keep eating, but in the beginning it can take some time, so we can't hang out here for 30 minutes or an hour.
Exactly. Hanging out there can give you neck pain. Not only neck pain, also headaches. So we want to avoid those things as much as possible, because the strain on the muscles can pull at the joints in your neck and can cause some pinching of some nerves and things like that. So we really want to be mindful of positioning for sure.
And my last note, yes, breastfeeding can be a challenge and can give some internal stressors, some external stressors of what should be. But I wouldn't worry about what should be. We're just focusing on what is. So breastfeeding might come and it might be the easiest thing, or it might be challenging. The baby is going to eat. They're going to have enough food. Yes. Please do not add any extra, easier said than done, extra stress to your experience saying, I should have done this, I should have done that. Like, oftentimes you're reaching out to the resources that you have, and
Yeah.
you do the best you can with what you have.
You do the best you can with what you have. Honestly, there are some variables that you cannot control. I'm going to give myself for an example. My beautiful daughter was born with 2 teeth. Okay.
2 teeth.
Who could have seen that coming, right? All the preparation in the world could not have
You
prepared
for
me
teeth.
for teeth and lactation. So you do the best you can with what you have and you move through. And, as much as you prepare, always know that you can have plans A, B, C, D, all the way through Z, and still none of those might be what you need in the moment. Be flexible. Be flexible, mamas.
And then the last bit. So sleep and rest. When we talk about sleep, we have a whole podcast on sleep when the baby sleeps. So we're not going to tell you that. But when we talk about good sleep, consider having an eye mask, something to block out the light, earplugs or headphones if you're very sound sensitive for rest. If you are in the hospital setting, a lot of times people wake you to keep checking on you, which can interrupt your rest. If sometimes you have a harder time getting back to sleep, sometimes you can do different audio tracks, especially if your mind is one that races, like yoga nidra audio tracks. You can do devotional audio, whatever type of meditation audios, even rain sounds, whatever soothes you, just having something running. And when we talk about rest, there's even some restorative poses, and we have another postpartum series coming up where we'll get into that more, but you can rest even when you're not completely asleep. And so really just even taking that time, because I'm like, day 0 is just day 0. We have many days ahead, and so get as much rest as you can.
Absolutely. And take advantage of when either the care team in the hospital or the birthing center or even at home says, "Hey, would you like me to take the baby for just a moment?" If you feel comfortable with it, would recommend for your rest and your nervous system. We'll talk about the nervous system in a little bit as well. So now let's talk about what the care team looks like from weeks 0 through week 6. So on your team, first and foremost, a mental health therapist is so key and so clutch. And this is actually someone
Yes.
who could be good to have on the team even prenatally. So thinking about someone who, if you're not already in the care of a mental health therapist, maybe considering someone who can kind of have a baseline of you in that prenatal stage. Even though in the prenatal stage also hormones are going on and fluctuating, it's good to have someone who knows you through to postpartum who can also help to identify the difference between baby blues and postpartum depression. So there are subtle differences, but it matters being able to distinguish the two so that you can get proper care and proper support as needed.
Can I
Next,
interject?
oh yeah.
There's also, so yes, baby blues and postpartum depression are a thing for the first time mamas. A lot of times people mention an intense identity shift
Yes.
into motherhood where it's like, oh, who am I now? Like, as a mom, as a friend, because it hits like there can be some survival mode energy in that first couple weeks where you're just trying to get the gist of keeping someone alive. But even processing in that space, like, well, what is my identity now, can really be something helpful. And even realizing for those who have partners, I've even heard of partner dynamics being a heavy topic of conversation, and expectations looking a little different based on partner's family dynamic or your family dynamic in what it looks like to be a parent. And so even if it's not like, oh, I'm down, even for that figuring out your identity, it can be helpful to have someone on board ahead of time. One of my friends is on her second, and she's like, oh, I got my therapist scheduled early because the first one got me.
Yes.
Not in a terrible way, but just getting adjusted.
Yes, absolutely. And that is something that we do a deep dive in our series coming up as well. But absolutely, that is something to just focus on and consider. Next, we have our therapy services, and that is our PT, OT, and lactation, like we were mentioning before. They're still going to be carrying through in this 0 to 6 weeks time. And what they're going to be doing now is focusing on how's your tissue healing going, right? If you have a cesarean scar, how is that tissue healing going? Do we need to do some scar tissue massage? If you had a vaginal delivery or vaginal birth, how is the pelvic floor looking? How is the perineum looking? If you had any tearing, what is that tissue healing looking like?
Correct.
We're also going to be looking at your endurance. What can you withstand? Can you withstand your full day? Are you feeling fatigued, exhausted, tired, energized? At what points of the day, and how can we use the times where you have energy and rest when you need it? We're also going to be looking at muscle activation. So what is your pelvic floor muscle activation looking like after a certain period of time? What is your core muscle activation looking like? And that's going to be very soon thereafter. What are your glutes looking like? What are the rest of your muscles doing? And can they kick on as needed? We're also going to be checking vitals. That's very, very, very
Yes.
key, especially immediately postpartum and especially in populations of color. But we are going to be checking those vitals because we want to make sure, what is your blood pressure looking like? We'll touch base with you guys in just a moment on the things that would require an emergency care. Then we're also going to be looking at feeding and progressing any exercises. So from week 0, even really from day 0, when we say exercises, we don't mean you're going to the gym.
Doing crunches.
We don't mean you're doing crunches, but what we mean is even breathing can be an exercise, expanding your rib cage, expanding your muscles, being able to slowly and gently activate your muscles as you are lifting baby, lifting car seat, lifting stroller,
Yes.
walking, things like that.
That's
and so
exercise.
those things are exercise, and those are what we're going to be working on helping you progress. And then your OB, your midwife, your nurse team. So OBs typically, especially stateside, they're going to say, see you in 6 weeks.
Yes.
We highly emphasize that you should seek care before 6 weeks. And so a midwife is going to see you either at 1 week and then multiple visits after, typically. And that kind of varies and depends on like what program, what setup you have with your midwife. And then a nurse is actually especially here stateside, when you go to deliver, let's say at a birthing center or a hospital, and you have a nurse hotline that they'll give you the number at discharge and say that, you can call us. That's not an empty invitation. They truly mean that. So in weeks 0 to 6, you can call that nurse's hotline in the labor and delivery department about anything related to you and how you're feeling, and anything related to baby as well, but specifically to you and how you're feeling. They will get you back in there and they will do a full thorough assessment. So it's very encouraged for you to use that nurse's hotline. And if you did not deliver in a birthing center or a hospital, have a local emergency center number on deck just in case you need to make that call. And then finally, you're going to look at your support circle in weeks 0 to 6. So with your support circle, that is your family, those are your friends, that's your community. We're going to talk in just a second about what your support circle might be able to help you with, but think about what you would like visitation to look like. This is going to be a pretty vulnerable time for you as mama. And so as you are going through thinking about, would I like there to be an open door policy? Can people come and visit whenever they want to? Or can people really only visit me? I really want them to only visit on these days or during these hours. Really consider that. And then think about also what your return to work plan is going to be if you are working, and if you are working outside of the home. I would say even if you are working in the home too, consider, what your support circle is going to look like as you transition there as well. So we're going to get into talking about what it looks like for your support person to really assist you. So I love this explanation that I heard recently about the difference between support and help. And so maybe it'll be helpful for you too. But I heard someone say that support is lending help to someone who can otherwise really give who can help themselves. So it's just giving a boost when they're maybe either having a challenging time, having a hard time, or just need a little boost. Whereas help is giving support or giving help to someone who may not otherwise be able to help themselves. So I think there's a lot of stigma sometimes around asking for quote unquote help, when if we phrase it a bit differently, we can plan for what supports we might need, knowing that it's not necessarily that you're in a space where you can't do anything for yourself. And even if it is, that's okay. It's okay to ask for support. And so you want to be sure that you're creating your support plan ahead of time. One thing that my mental health therapist helped me with before giving birth was saying, can you identify all of the things that you might want support with afterwards? And she was like, it might not be that you want someone to come and like oodle over the baby and hold the baby. But maybe you want support with sweeping and mopping floors, doing laundry and folding clothes, dishes, taking out the trash. I kid you not. My husband at the time and I were like trying to figure out who we wanted to come in and be in our support circle. And once we did, we made it very clear, especially in those 0 to 3 months, we said, okay, if you come, you're more than welcome to visit, and you're more than welcome to greet baby. And also, before you do,
yeah, we're ready.
Please sweep. Please help us.
Please bring milk.
Please
I remember bringing some. Like, we actually need some milk.
We're actually out of milk. Yes. And don't be shy about asking. Yeah. These people are your friends in your support circle for a reason. And so, whether it's a meal, whether it's transportation, if you need transportation to and from appointments, consider the things that you might need. So I'm going to ask you guys, throw it in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves. What would you add to this list that you see here? So there's cooking a meal, building and setting up baby equipment. What are some things that you all might add to this list? Or is it like, y'all like, that's pretty comprehensive?
Also, shout out to the support person on the call. I was like, that is being support when it's like learning information and sharing it with the birthing person when they're open to it and if they're open to it. But shout out to the support person.
And if you guys are like, this is really comprehensive, I'll take it.
While we are waiting for the drops.
Oh, yes. Hold baby while I nap. Absolutely.
That is it. Yes.
Absolutely.
Teeny tiny.
While I nap, while I shower.
Yeah.
While I just have a second to myself. Clean the bath. Yes.
I feel like people need this even without baby being here, but definitely with baby being.
No, actually, bathroom. That part.
Cleaning is,
that part. Because when you think about how much it takes to clean any space in the home, but the bathroom be taking a long time.
The bathroom is a long time. And the bathroom with baby. Okay, I'm going to shift this.
Yes, absolutely. And Speaking of naps, so rest is going to be very, very key. And we want to be very clear that it is important that you do not skip rest. Listen to your body's cues. Your body is going to give you cues that you may need to sit down for a moment. You might feel fatigued. You might feel like it's effortful to take steps forward. You might feel a headache. You might feel just exhausted. That's, first of all, understandable. Your tissues are healing. When you're resting, your tissues are healing, your milk production is increasing, your nervous system is regulating. I'm going to talk to you about the nervous system in a little bit. Your blood volume, so all that blood that you have accumulated over the pregnancy is going to normalize. That blood volume is going to normalize, and your uterus is going to be healing and shrinking down to its normal size. All of this is happening while you're resting. So the importance of rest is that you also don't have to necessarily be completely asleep, but full and complete rest. It's going to help you because when you're awake, your brain is shifting different tasks. Your brain is saying, how do I keep this baby alive? That's first and foremost. What are all these variables that I need to take into account? And so your brain is shifting tasks very quickly and very frequently. Therefore, it's not able to prioritize all of the healing that you need to get done. So super important there.
Okie dokes. When it comes to setting up your environment, we want a cozy space. So, think about having extra pillows, extra blankets, blackout curtains, especially if it's the summertime or if it's a time where daylight is lasting extra long, the blackout curtains. Because, yes, it might be more naps during the day than in the evening, just depending on how baby's sleep schedule is coming along. And the first couple weeks, it's probably not the real sleep schedule, but it'll be learned as time goes. But having the blackout curtains, minimizing noise. So think about white noise, soft music. This can be soothing for you. And even my homegirl would have her white noise go with her when she took baby out the house. It's like, oh no, this is going to be right next to them to keep them nice and calm. And then just to Val's point of, or Dr. Val's point of making sure to set boundaries. When are you okay with having phone calls or FaceTimes, video visits? When what are you thinking about when visitors are able to come? When are they not able to come? And please don't be shy. I know sometimes it's like, I know they want this. It's like, but in this time, what do you actually need? And then using props for feeding, lifting, and play. And so when we say using props, using your pillows for feeding. Sometimes a little, I'm going to say it's a little boppy. I can't remember that's what it's called.
Yeah,
But
my breast friend
yeah,
is a brand. There are lots of different brands, but definitely the ones that can help you bring baby to you and not you go down to baby.
and even when we talk about elevated tummy time, if you struggle to get on and off the floor, please don't feel like you must put baby on the floor. Baby can be in an elevated tummy time as long as you're there and can move them and keep them nice and safe. What does, at least while we're on this slide, when we talk about setting up your environment so that you can rest and so that little one can rest, what does rest look like for you? What does a cozy environment look like? How do you recover? Oh, yes, good question. One supported person having her second baby. First is a toddler, so question is how should one support if the person is having their second baby? First is a toddler that's and 2 years old. Very clever. Yes, the toddlers can be very independent, but also there's an interesting, and correct me if you've seen something different, there's an interesting dynamic a lot of times when mom has the new baby. The toddler is like, well, where is my attention? So even being the support person who can give the toddler the extra attention, like, yes, mom is here and can give you some loves, but having someone, and we even had a mom of 3 mentioned that she wished someone had come to play with her other kids, because she's like, yes, I can love on them, but having someone one-on-one showing them that they're also still important and they also have that attention can be really helpful.
Yes.
Because like, yeah, they can do a lot alone, but do they want to? Probably not. They want someone looking and cheering them on as well.
And involving the toddler or helping the toddler practice skills that they can use to help with the baby is also key. So, if it is that, you put the diapers on the floor where the toddler can access them, so the toddler can help stock the different
Yes, give them
roles.
roles.
Yeah, give them roles and responsibilities. It's a time where toddlers really want to be active and engaged as well. So not only having someone to help play with them and engage them in that way, and also engaging them in the day-to-day things in the house is really important too.
That's true. It gives big sibling roles and responsibilities. It's like,
Yeah.
this is how you help with
Yeah.
your little sibling. Okie dokes. Let's talk about gentle movement. And so, to Val's point, or to Dr. Val's point earlier, starting slow and progressing. So walking, light walks. When you feel ready, you can do a little stroller walks with baby, or if someone is keeping an eye on tiny one and you want to do your own casual walk just to get some fresh air, that is not only perfectly fine, but something good to do. Helps to strengthen your muscles, helps to get you back in the rhythm. It's like we'll say light strengthening. And when we talk about gentle movement and positioning, so many times I'll remind moms that functional movement is exercise. And so I'll have moms focus and say, hey, am I pushing into my feet when I go to stand? Or do I feel my glutes? So do I feel my buttock muscles kicking on? When I'm lifting baby, am I lifting with my legs, or do I feel like I'm straining my back? What does it feel like to move in your body? And so just acknowledging and taking a moment to notice, oh, is my core kicking on? Am I doing my belly drawing? Am I breathing? And so starting to get into the rhythm of normal breathing is important. Starting to get into the rhythm of proper lifting. Because a lot of times your body might feel okay, but if we start getting into patterns where we're lifting with our back instead of using our legs and bending with the knees, then we might be like, oh, and my back hurts. And it's like we can avoid some of these things with breathing strategies, with proper movement strategies, which is often why we say link up with therapy services early.
Yes.
And even going from floor to stand, if you do tummy time on the floor, if you're doing other activities on the floor, you have other littles, we even have a masterclass on how to lift toddler level and how to lift infants from the floor and protect your back in the process.
Yes.
We have been asked if one should limit extension in postpartum. And when we say extension, like leaning back, there is nothing that says you cannot lean back. Please do not just restrict your movement unless specifically directed to by a medical provider. And make sure you have the reasoning and understand why you will be restricting the movement so you can know when to get back into the movement. On the right side of the screen, when it says focus on gentle spinal and hip movements through like yoga and Tai Chi, there's so much you can do with yoga and Tai Chi.
Yes.
These are early exercises that folks can typically get into. And so this is 0 to 6 weeks. Think about a lot of times 0 to 2 weeks, we're thinking about breathing, gentle muscle engagement. Even at that 2 to 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, a lot of times you can start doing some of the low impact activities, thinking yoga, thinking Tai Chi.
And we're thinking about mindful movement here. So that's why it's key, because you are reconnecting with a new body in postpartum. And so by doing so, you are taking the time to breathe and coordinate your breath with your movement. So that's a lot of what we do when we see our clients. We're also, I have to say, we're very biased because I'm a yoga instructor and Dr. Say is a Tai Chi instructor. So we're biased, but these are really key practices that can help you reconnect with yourself and your body postpartum.
Yes. And yeah, even with that, we'll go through positions for breathing. Even when we think about positioning post-cesarean, lying flat is often helpful for when we're talking about stretching out the abdominal tissues, making sure to stand upright, walking upright. It gives like the region where you're healing more feedback on how to heal, and then it keeps the tissue from getting sticky. And so when I say sticky, not moving as well.
Yes.
So just listen to your body, move at your own pace, and know that even small movements help to restore your strength and flexibility. Okay, red flags to know. Y'all,
take a picture. Take a picture of this slide, please.
Please. And there is, on our Spotify, we have a doctor. She sees a lot of women in postpartum. She's also specialized in women's health. She goes through a nice detailed list of what scaries look like. So if you have a chance, that would be a great listen. Dr. Shala, and I think it says something. I forget the title, y'all, but we'll circle back another day. But when to call 911. So when we talk about blood pressure changes, people do have differing norms. I tell people in postpartum, cardiovascular risk is high. And so when we say cardiovascular risk for clotting, risk for strokes, risk for heart attacks, risk for those scaries can be a little bit higher as our blood volume changes, as our hormones change, even hemorrhaging and things like that. So hemorrhaging is a fancy term for bleeding out. And so things to look out for. Typical blood pressure is 120/80 or less. If you know that you usually run less, great. If you have issues even in the prenatal time period with that blood pressure climbing up, oftentimes they'll call it preeclampsia, then that's definitely something to look out for in the postpartum. A lot of times for high blood pressure, you're not going to notice any symptoms until it's too high. And at that point, it is an emergency. So blurred vision, slowed speech, feeling like you're losing vision. These are emergencies. Sudden headaches that are like, we call them thunderclap headaches. All of these things can be signs of more of a scary. And so It varies on whether someone should have a blood pressure cuff at home or not. Depends on if you like to check on things or if that's going to make you more stressed. Maybe not. But just knowing what blood pressure norms are for you and then making sure that you're still staying in that range in postpartum. If you notice a fever, this can be a sign of infection. Same thing with the foul smelling or abnormal color. When we say lochia, that's just the bleeding, like the rest of the bleeding that's coming post delivery of baby. So we don't want that to be colored weird. We don't want it to be foul smelling. So yes, you know how sometimes period blood can have a metallic smell. Okay, we don't want anything to smell dead or rotten, as that can also be a sign of infection. And then heavy bleeding. We should not be going through a pad in an hour. We definitely shouldn't be going through 2 pads in an hour. That's too much bleeding. And that can tell us the uterus did not necessarily, either we got something else going on, but the uterus did not completely heal. Like when the placenta leaves, we do have a large internal wound. That's also why it's important for us to rest, because we need internal healing. So if we get any type of gushes of blood in that postpartum, no. Police, that is a reason to call 911 and check in. On that bottom, I think I mentioned severe headaches, vision changes, or chest pains can be signs of more of that cardiovascular emergency. Same thing with shortness of breath. We should not have any difficulty breathing in that, especially in that immediate postpartum time period.
Correct.
And so advocate for yourself. If you see these things and somebody says, don't worry about it, please do worry about it and please do follow up.
Yes.
Especially for blood pressure. That is not a game.
It is really important to ask and get checked up and get worked up, as opposed to wondering and sending your nervous system into a fight or flight, and also not knowing whether or not it is something to be concerned about. And speaking of the nervous system, just a quick plug here. So you've got 2 automatic nervous systems, and they're your parasympathetic and your sympathetic. And if you have not heard of them before, your parasympathetic is your rest and digest nervous system. That's the one that's going to help you with your healing and support your digestion in a calm environment in your body. And your sympathetic nervous system, that is your alert. I'm aware. That's your awareness nervous system. That's the one that is your fight or flight. And it's there to help you in some respects. It helps a lot through delivery, actually, birthing process. And we talk about that too in our prenatal series. But postpartum, it can lead to decreased healing, and it can lead to anxiety and stress. And so there are some things that you can do to stimulate your vagus nerve, which is your cranial nerve 10 in your brain and in your body. And that is actually directly related to your rest and digest organs, and it can help with your ability to calm your body down. So ways that you can stimulate this nerve are splashing some cold water on your face. You can sing. It doesn't matter. You don't have to sound like Beyonce. You can sing. You can hum. So you're singing to your baby, the lullabies, humming to the baby. That is all really good for your nervous system, as well as co-regulating their nervous system. And then deep breathing. And we definitely go into deep breathing as well in some of our master classes and some of our podcasts even. And so your vagus nerve, it innervates, or it stimulates the diaphragm, which helps you to breathe. And so there's this like really cool feedback loop that happens when you actually intentionally breathe and you stimulate that vagus nerve, and then that vagus nerve then helps you to get a deeper breath, and you have your parasympathetic, your rest and digest nervous system ready to go. So check out our YouTube video on our masterclass From Chaos to Calm if you have any other questions there. So then moving over to just some tips for your physical norms. It is normal to experience, it is common, I should say, to experience maybe some pain, but we want to be sure that we're managing it. So again, witch hazel for that perineal area, some scar tissue massage if you've had a cesarean section, or even in the perineal. Lord, that word today, in the perineal area, especially if you've had any tearing, ice for any swelling that you might be having, especially if it's in that C-section area. Any heat for any spasms, if you're having some back spasms or
Especially
tension.
post-epidural, ice
Yes,
and heat. Yep.
yes. And see a PT. We are built, designed, and ready to address pain management. So definitely work through that with a PT. Core activation, difficulty managing your core muscles, that can be common as well, but we can help teach how to learn how to coordinate your breathing with full core engagement. So that means not just the front part, but the top of your core, the bottom, the back, the side, all of it. Again, we talk about this in one of our master classes called Strong Not Stuck. And then another thing you might notice is difficulty activating the lower body, so the hips and the glutes and things like that. That's not uncommon, but that is something that can be trained with breathing activation and coordinating that breath with the movement as well. Endurance, you might notice that you're slower. I myself, actually, Dr. Say and I both, we walk at a fast clip, okay?
You're the fastest.
I know I've been known to like trot walk, but at any rate, immediately postpartum, that's not the time to do that. Slow movement with rest breaks and hydration, especially electrolytes, are going to be really key for you during this time, as again your body is regulating those fluids. Especially if you've had an epidural, there might be a lot of fluid retention in your body.
Yes.
So getting some electrolytes, making sure that you're getting some slow and gentle movement can help with flushing some of those fluids out of your system. And then with nutrition, you want to consider having some iron, some protein, especially after all that blood loss.
Yes,
We're going
iron-rich foods,
yes,
protein-rich
yes,
foods.
because anemia is something to be really considering during this time as well. And then if there's persistent fatigue, like when we say like persistent fatigue, you're not really even able to like keep your eyes open, or you're not even able to really get up and attend to baby because you're so fatigued. Call your OB, midwife, nurse, whomever is on your medical team. Call them immediately. Headaches can be something that come up, as we were mentioning before, and they can be hormonally based. But they also can be related to, again, that position with feeding, sleeping. But if you're having persistent migraines, see a specialist. Call that
Yes.
OB, midwife, nursing team. If you're having night sweats, again, normal, because it can be hormonally regulated or hormonally occurring. But something to do with that is using chuck pads. So those are like those pads you see in the hospital setting, and you can use those in the bed just to, or a towel even,
yeah.
to kind of catch some of those that sweating in the night. If you're having inflammation, compression and elevation are key, but if it's persistent, meaning that it is lasting for some days, and it's not getting any better with the elevation and compression, call your OB, midwife, nursing team. Okay.
Yes.
Speaking of emotional norms, there is a cortisol spike at birth, and then there's a drop in estrogen and progesterone, which are your mood protecting hormones. Those are your hormones that are actually going to help elevate your mood. And so, and you might have varying oxytocin levels as well. That's also a happy hormone.
Yes.
So your emotions might be fluctuating. Know that is almost bound to happen, but
Your body's doing a lot.
your body's doing quite a lot. What we're going to do with that is find some grounding practices. So again, yoga, tai chi, breathing, Reiki, acupuncture, yoga nidra, restorative yoga. And then also, again, we mentioned that mental health therapy on the team, key, 10 out of 10.
Yes, we love mental health. And so, if you did enjoy today, I hope you did. If you got some new nuggets, new tips, we do have a postpartum series coming up. It's to look at 6 weeks and beyond in the postpartum time period. And it's running virtually. It runs on the Saturday mornings, May 2nd, 9th, and the 16th. And it's 9 to 10 a.m. Also recorded, so you'll have the info if you need it. And typically we're going over physical health in that time period, routine building. We'll do a deeper dive into baby blues versus postpartum depression, as well as return to fitness, and how to know whether to progress or dial back in your fitness based on what your body's feeling, what symptoms might come up. And so, Yes, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You're gonna really want to know more, even further out, and for really getting back into the rhythm. I hear a lot of mamas say they don't feel like themselves till even about a year, and so give yourself grace and space. Definitely check us out for more info. For the pregnant mommies, we'll probably have a labor and birth prep series coming up as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, links are going to be in the chat. So I would definitely click on the PriorityOneWellness.net link where it says events if you wanted to do a deeper dive into that postpartum course. We are giving a 10% discount if you attended today. Love to see you live. So thank you, thank you. And let me click forward.
Mm-hmm.
Key takeaways for today. Choosing your support team well, they do matter, and your support personnel well. And know that these can shift over time. What you need more of can shift. Making sure to take time to prioritize your rest. And just acknowledging, even with the physical and emotional changes that come up, it's your body navigating through a lot. And using some of these strategies like reaching out to supports, making sure to get as much rest, using things to help facilitate rest can help lessen the intensity of some of those changes and help you rest a little bit better and get back into your gentle movement while still feeling safe. Know when to seek urgent care. Please take a screenshot, even if you need to go back for the recording. And then other things we wanted you to really be mindful of are what physical, emotional changes can come up, as well as embracing emotional and spiritual healing practices. Because you do launch into a new identity. It is a different space. Even if you already have one child, having two is going to be different. Having a third is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely 0 to 1. It's just going to feel different either way.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, next steps. Here is our info. Follow us on Spotify, Instagram, or book a call in case you want to chat if you have further questions or want to see what one-on-one care could look like. We do long distance and close by care, so up to you. Our info or our email is info@balancemamaproject.com, and our Instagram is @balance.mama.project. And then we're Balance Mama Project Radio on Spotify. And it should be labeled red flags for that emergency postpartum care case.
Yes. And so thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but if you have any questions